Fine. Let me start. Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome to all the devotees for this exclusive question answer session. I already have 2 questions and you can post your questions on live chat and I will try to answer as many questions as possible in the next 1 hour. The first question here, as Buddhism rejects the Vedas and deity worship, but has realization or of nirvana or liberation. So, as Buddha himself is an incarnation of Vishnu, how can we understand this? Buddhism is a timely necessity for the sake of stopping rampant animal killing in the name of Vedic sacrifices. Before the advent of Buddha, animal killing was rampant in the name of following Vedas. So the Supreme Lord incarnated as Buddha in order to stop this animal killing in the name of Vedas. So when people were told to stop this animal killing, they made an excuse that we are offering sacrifice, and in that way we are actually offering some flesh in sacrifice to Kali. So Buddha rejected the Vedas in order to stop this animal killing completely. Of course, Buddha is the Supreme Lord himself, so he is not at all for rejecting the Vedas, but it was just a temporary adjustment that was made by him to make people stop killing the animals, and he taught a sub-religious principle which is ahimsa, non-violence, as the supreme dharma. Ahimsa paramo dharma. That's what he taught. Now that is required for those people who are completely addicted to meat eating and animal killing without any mercy, without any compassion. Buddha took compassion upon the animals. All the living entities are children of God. In the Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiyaha tasam brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradapita. Krishna says, I am the seed giving father for every species of life in this material world. So the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Father of all living beings. And in Bhagavad Gita he also says, Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. All living entities are his amsha only. Every living entity is spirit soul in whichever body, animal body, bird body or insect body, doesn't matter. Human body, devata body. The bodies are different, but the soul is part and parcel of Krishna only, the Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Lord took compassion upon the poor animals who were being killed. And such killing, rampant killing, results in severe reactions from material nature. this animal killing, when it is done unrestrictedly without following the restrictions. There are so many restrictions in the scriptures, even though scriptures permit animal killing for the sake of offering sacrifice, but it is highly restricted. For example, in the scriptures it is said that they can offer and sacrifice an animal like a only goat, not any animal of their choice. No. And that also only on Amavasya. That also only to Kali. And that also there should be a priest who is qualified to chant the mantras to make the offering. Now you see Kali Yuga, there are no priests, qualified priests. People do not follow the restrictions once a month only. They do not only offer goat in sacrifice, they offer chicken, whatever they like to eat, they simply make a show of offering. And sometimes there is no even proper offering done to Kali. Just like some meat shops in Calcutta, they claim that if you buy meat from them, first of all, purchasing meat is not at all allowed in the scriptures. But there's some shops, they say Kali Prasad. What is this Kali Prasad? There is nothing like Kali Prasad mentioned in the scriptures. Remnants of vegetarian food offered to Krishna is Krishna Prasad. But there is no such thing as remnants of flesh offered to Kali is Kali Prasad. There is no such thing. It's not at all Prasadam. It's not mercy of Kali. Kali is very angry against these animal killers. That's why you see Kali has got a very ferocious form. She has got 10 hands, and each of the hands she has got one weapon. 10 weapons she has got, just to actually punish these nonsensical people who, in the name of Vedas, they are doing so much animal killing, indiscriminate animal killing. So please understand, Buddha appeared to show compassion to those animals, to save them from indiscriminately being killed in the name of sacrifice. But Buddha had to reject the Vedas for the time being. Later Acharyas, they introduced the Vedas in society, in human society, after the advent of Buddha. But still, Buddha taught the ultimate goal of life is liberation from material bondage. It's not that this material world is a permanent place for somebody to stay here comfortably. No. Buddha taught ultimately the goal of life is liberation from material bondage. And he called it nirvana. Nirvana means cessation of material existence. Of course, Buddha did not speak the higher principles because the people to whom he was speaking, they were not in a position to actually understand whatever Buddha wanted to say. So, when people followed Buddha, then they were saved from gross sins. They were saved from atheism, because even though Buddha rejected the Vedas, still he was such a powerful incarnation, people followed him. So in following him, they were following the Supreme Lord only. So technically they may be called atheists, but actually those who follow Buddha are actually, if they properly follow Buddha, exactly what he has taught, if they follow, then they are saved from sinful reactions. They are liberated from material existence if they follow Buddha. But modern day Buddhists, not all of them are strictly following the instructions given by Buddha. For example, there are so many meat eaters who claim to be Buddhists, but they don't follow the ahimsa principle of totally avoiding all kinds of killing, animal killing. So like that, in Kali Yuga, there are deviations. There are deviations among people who may claim to be following some particular religious system, but they don't strictly follow all the principles. Next question. Is Buddha realization same as Krishna realization, as both are incarnation of Lord Vishnu? Buddha realization is realization of the Supreme Lord, yes. But then Buddha realization is not easy. It's not very easy. The stringent rules that they have to follow in terms of practicing ahimsa, practicing meditation, practicing so many rules are there, and that very few people actually follow. Yes, if they follow that, then they are able to progress in spiritual life. It's possible. Whereas when somebody accepts the process of bhakti in order to realize the Supreme Lord, bhakti is very easy process. The difficult rules and regulations of Buddhism are not there in the process of bhakti, Vishnu bhakti or Krishna bhakti. Those difficult rules are not. Next question, how to understand difference between Sugata Buddha and Gautam Buddha? I don't know who is referred to as Sugata Buddha, so I can't answer this question. In the scriptures, there's only mention of one Buddha, Gautam Buddha. That's all. Next question, how will I understand that I'm progressing in devotional service? Yes, in devotional service, there are steps one has to undertake to actually begin devotional service and make progress. For example, in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetra is this body, Kshetrajna is the knower of the body. There are two knowers in this body. One is the individual spirit soul, you or I or any living being. A spirit soul is the knower of the body. And the Supreme Lord, Krishna, who's seated as Paramatma in the heart of every living being, is also the knower of the body. So two knowers are there, two Kshetrajnas are there. So Krishna explains that in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Most importantly, he says there are 20 items of cultivation of knowledge. And when one cultivates knowledge, that leads to ultimate freedom from material bondage and realization of the absolute truth. So in this 20 items of knowledge, beginning with humility, amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, rajyam, the most important principle of these 20 items of knowledge is mam avyabhicharini bhakti, to develop unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Lord Krishna is the most important principle among the 20 items of knowledge. And acharyopasanam, to approach a bona fide spiritual master who's a proper representative of Krishna in order to undertake the process of devotional service. That is also the another important principle among the 20 principles of knowledge, items of knowledge mentioned in the 13th chapter. So, if we are interested in knowing whether we are progressing, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport to that 13th chapter, verses 8 to 20, 8 to 12, 5 verses, he says that one can test whether one is making progress by these 20 items. That is, if you are following the process of bhakti, are you developing humility? Are you becoming prideless? Are you able to cultivate knowledge, spiritual knowledge? Ahimsa, are you able to follow the principle of non-violence? The non-violence is understood, as Prabhupada explains in the purport to that 13.8 to 12, those verses. Non-violence is understood as not to harm other living beings. But that is just at the physical level. At the level of the mind and at the level of the speech also there could be violence committed. So real non-violence is not to check the spiritual progress of any living being. That's the real proper understanding of non-violence, ahimsa. That Prabhupada explains. So like this, each of the items, if we consider, whether we are able to develop those qualities mentioned in the 13th chapter, the 20 items of knowledge, whether we are able to develop those symptoms, by that we can understand whether we are making progress. Next question. The soul is always pure in nature. It is the mind and ego that gets corrupted. And why do we use the term contaminated soul? How do I understand this? Yes, contaminated soul means the soul cannot be infected by matter. Soul is completely spiritual. But the living being, soul means the living being, you, I, any person. The person becomes influenced by false ego, by material nature, by the three gunas. And under the influence, one forgets one's own spiritual nature, one forgets Krishna, and one becomes conditioned by the material influence, the influence of the three gunas. And accordingly, one will act in a sattvic way or a rajasic way or a tamasic way. And one develops material desires in association with matter. One develops the desire to lord over material nature. So many things happen. So this influence of, because we are placed in material nature, material energy, so we become forgetful, we are in ignorance due to the material influence, and we develop material desires. So all this is happening not exactly in the soul, but it is happening in the subtle body. But the living being identifies with the subtle body and later on the gross body, and considers himself or herself as a product of matter. This is explained in the Bhagavatam. Yaya sammohito jivo atmanam trigunatmakam. If you are watching the daily evening Bhagavatam discourse, then this 7th chapter that is now going on, past few days we have been discussing in the 7th chapter, 1st canto Bhagavatam, how the living being in contact with material energy becomes bewildered by the influence of the three modes of material nature and considers himself or herself as a product of material nature. Though we are not a product of material nature. This gross and subtle body is simply external to us, the real soul, the real spirit. But we forget our spiritual nature, our spiritual existence. And we think, I am this body, or I am the gross body, or I am the subtle body. And that is the reason why we are trapped in this material world, material existence. Now, contaminated soul means the consciousness becomes altered. Consciousness is the energy or symptom of the soul. So that is pure consciousness is Krishna consciousness. But in association with material nature, this consciousness becomes polluted, materially contaminated. So it's the consciousness which is contaminated and not the soul. So that contaminated consciousness is sometimes referred to as contaminated soul. Next question. How to read Srila Prabhupada's book? Is there any sequence that I have to follow? Yes. Srila Prabhupada is primarily written 3 scriptures: Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Prabhupada has given word for word meaning for every shloka. He has given the translation and he has written purports, elaborate purports. So you have to study these three books in that order. First Bhagavad Gita, then Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita. But side by side, there are other compilations of Srila Prabhupada's discourses or Prabhupada's essays, writings from Back to Godhead magazine that he was writing, he was publishing, etc. Small books are available which explain some specific topic in Bhagavad Gita, just like there is a small book called Beyond Birth and Death by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, it is a compilation of discourses on the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita given by Srila Prabhupada. That explains some basics of Krishna consciousness. It is the subject matter is the same as what is there in Bhagavad Gita second chapter, but it is elaborately explained in simple way. So you can read the small books and get clear understanding of the basic philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and then you can start reading Bhagavad Gita, and after finishing Bhagavad Gita, then you can read Bhagavatam, and after finishing Bhagavatam, you can read Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is the sequence. But for a beginner, it is advised small books, and then you can, after finishing reading the small books, you can actually read Bhagavad Gita. Next question. I am visiting temples regularly, performing daily puja at home, and reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Despite knowing I'm unable to chant 16 rounds daily, please guide me. Now, chanting 16 rounds has to be performed by gradually making a habit of chanting at least one round, adjusting your schedule such that you have a quality time for spending in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, japa. So gradually increase from one round. Regularity is important. Regularly you make time for chanting one round, then increase that to 2 rounds. And after you have become steady in daily chanting 2 rounds without having difficulty in finishing those rounds, completing those rounds, and without neglecting your important duties, other duties, then gradually you can increase the number of rounds to come to 16 rounds step by step. 1 round, then 2 rounds, then 4 rounds, and gradually increase it to 8 rounds, and gradually increase it to 12 rounds, then 16 rounds, like that. You gradually increase, not all of a sudden you think that I should chant 16 rounds today, and somehow you try to squeeze out some time or have difficulty in adjusting your schedule. All of a sudden, the time required for chanting 16 rounds, which is 2 hours if you chant continuously, or it may take more time also if you are taking some short breaks between your routine duties to chant, let's say 2 rounds or 3 rounds or just 1 round. It will be a long drawn affair. So what devotees do generally is they adjust their schedule such that they make time, if possible early morning, to chant 2 hours continuously and finish off 16 rounds, or you can divide your day into 4 different periods in which you make time about half an hour in the morning time, half an hour later in the day, half an hour towards the afternoon time, and then half an hour in the evening. So 4 rounds, 4 rounds, 4 rounds, and 4 rounds. Like that, you can chant every day 16 rounds. So many different combinations, permutations are possible. You have to work it out. it requires disciplining your other activities also. It requires discipline. Following spiritual life means there has to be a discipline. It cannot be like whenever I find time, I'll do something. Then there'll be no regularity. If that is the way in which somebody tries to follow, then there'll be no regularity. So if you want to regularly practice spiritual life, chant 16 rounds and read Prabhupada's books, and you have to make time. And you should also not neglect your important duties at home or in school or workplace, wherever you got responsibility. That should also not be neglected. It should also be properly performed. As per Garuda Purana, the pinda is very important. So how can chanting and reading Bhagavatam help the person when the subtle body is hungry for food? Kindly clarify. Okay. Now, first of all, we should understand that Krishna as the Supreme Lord is the maintainer and provider for every living being in any condition. Whether the living being is in subtle body or ghost body or gross body, human body, animal body, whether in hell or heaven, Krishna is the only provider, only maintainer, and he is definitely providing for everyone. Then why do scriptures say that the descendants have to offer pinda, offer some food, offer some prasadam to the departed soul? It is as a matter of our duty towards the departed soul who were responsible for providing me with care, with protection, with providing the needs, especially when a child is born totally helpless. Unless the mother and father provide, the child will just have to suffer. Now you may say that Krishna is the provider. Krishna provides through the parents. Krishna provides through some caretaker, some guardian. Some arrangement Krishna makes. That is Krishna's mercy. But as far as those who are living in this world and not Krishna conscious, they have to acknowledge the help they are taking from devatas, the help they are getting from rishis in terms of knowledge, devatas in terms of getting all the basic needs, and the forefathers from whom we are inheriting so many things, and parents and other guardians. We have to acknowledge, and other living beings. Just like we cannot produce honey, a honey bee produces honey. So, but we are utilizing the honey bee's production. Cow gives us milk. That milk is so nutritious and so very tasty and so very nice. So, we are dependent on the cow. We cannot manufacture that milk by any means, not possible. So, like that, we are dependent on Mother Earth for the grains we get. So, like this, we have to acknowledge the benefit we are taking from so many different sources by performing this different types of yajnas. So, one of them is to offer pinda or food and water to the departed soul because we have taken benefits. That's a duty. Now, somebody is Krishna conscious, then they are not obligated because Krishna takes care of fulfilling the needs. Krishna takes charge. You simply worship Krishna, you offer to Krishna, then Krishna arranges for whoever is supposed to get through you whatever benefit Krishna will arrange. That is the understanding. Next question. Why do different religions tell about the starting of creation a different way? Are other religious holy books mentioned on creation incorrect? No, the scriptures are never incorrect, but scriptures are giving different degrees of detail, first thing. Secondly, scriptures are given from different perspectives. The different perspectives are there. Not all are talking from the same perspective. It's like in Bhagavatam itself. One place, the description is that material energy is lying in a dormant condition and Mahavishnu enters into material energy. The Supreme Lord, as Mahavishnu, enters the material energy and activates it. By his glance, he injects the spirit souls. But another place it is said, Mahavishnu lies on a causal ocean and from his outward breath, so many universes come into existence, and those universes are entered into by Mahavishnu as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Then the universe expands and is filled up by the second Vishnu with water called Garbha water. On that Garbha water he lies, and then he creates Brahma. Then Brahma creates the Prajapatis. Prajapatis create the first of each species. Then the species multiply like that. So different perspectives are giving us different details of the creation. But creation is a very, very complex thing. It's not a simple thing at all. It's not at all simple. It's very, very complex. So you have to study a particular scripture and try to understand whatever is explained there from the authorities in that scripture. The best explanation or the most detailed explanation is given in the Bhagavatam. And the other Puranas also, they do give details. Bhagavad Gita also very, very brief description is there. So like that, different scriptures are giving either brief explanation or detailed explanation. Detailed explanation also, different perspectives are there for explaining, but it's too complicated. Simultaneously, so many things happen at the beginning of creation. So how can we conceive what all is happening at one time? We cannot conceive. So therefore, there will be descriptions. This happened, then this happened. It may not be necessarily that one event happens and then only the next event happens. No, it could simultaneously happen. So many things could happen. So we cannot conceive, we cannot comprehend if all the details were given in one place. We cannot comprehend. It is impossible for us to comprehend. Our tiny brain cannot comprehend. So therefore, some description is given to the extent that we understand the Supreme Lord's supreme position as a supreme personality. He is the creator, he is the maintainer, he is the destroyer, he is the provider, he is everything. To understand that, so many descriptions are given about creation. Next question. I've been practicing Krishna consciousness for 2 years, but I don't know how to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books to others and preach them Krishna conscious philosophy. Now, distribution of books, first of all, you have to understand, is that people who are in ignorance about Krishna consciousness are simply suffering in this world. The essence of material existence is suffering. And people in ignorance simply suffer. They have no clue how to make a permanent solution to all problems. Whatever they may know about some solution to problems are all temporary patchwork solutions. People do not know that this human form of life, if we practice Krishna consciousness, we make a permanent solution to all fundamental problems. Just like the fundamental problems discussed in Bhagavad Gita is birth, death, disease, and old age. Now, where is the fundamental, where is the solution to this birth, death, disease, old age? Except in the Krishna consciousness process. No other process will help people to solve these problems. So therefore, in order to educate people, in order to enlighten them, one of the easiest ways is to give them a book and tell them to start reading. And that reading can be supplemented with chanting, by which the reading becomes effective in helping them understand the subject matter very easily. So it is out of compassion for the suffering souls that you are saved because you have taken to Krishna consciousness, but you should not be selfish. Just like somebody gave you a book or somebody told you about Krishna consciousness, some devotee, and that's how you came to Krishna consciousness. Now, in turn, you should also be grateful, and you should also try to tell others who do not know. Anybody you meet who doesn't know about Krishna consciousness, you can tell them about it. Now it's up to them whether they accept or don't accept. So begin by telling them something about Krishna consciousness that is very nice, and it can solve all your problems. You can get a solution to every problem. Most importantly, you can get solution to fundamental problems. And you can put an end to all suffering in your life. You can put an end. So that people do not know. They think that is all some utopian idea, that some people believe like that, but there's really no solution. That's what they think. But actually there is solution. Actually it is possible to get relief. It is possible to get relief very quickly. It is not that you have to practice for a long time and after some hundreds of lifetimes you will get some relief. No, immediately you can get relief simply by starting to read one book of Srila Prabhupada. You can get relief. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna once, you can get some. So you have to explain to people how you are benefiting, how you have been benefited already. That's why you're practicing. So you can share that. So the sharing, whatever benefits you have got, whatever you are doing, whatever is what you have read in Prabhupada's books, you can explain, you can share, you can try to convince, you can extend a helping hand. It is not that you're trying to brainwash them or you're trying to indoctrinate them. No, you are trying to help them out. It's a fact that people are suffering without Krishna consciousness. That you have to be convinced, first of all. You yourself have to be convinced. And then when you're convinced that people are suffering without Krishna consciousness, then you should try to relieve them. Krishna wants that. Prabhupada wants that. All saintly persons want that. They want people to get relief from their suffering. Next question. What's the difference between self-awareness and self-realization? It's the same thing. There's no difference. You become aware of yourself. That is called realizing this. Because the self or the spirit is not something material or not something gross. It's not even something subtle. It's not even subtle matter. It is completely different category of energy called spiritual energy. So the only way you can understand who you are is by this process of self-realization or becoming self-aware, conscious of yourself, like that. Next question. Lord Krishna wanted the Kurukshetra war to take place so as to wipe off the unwanted population in the world. But why Bhishma Dronacharya were killed? Good question. Krishna, yes, wanted to, it's correct, he wanted to reduce the burden of the earth. Mother Earth, before Krishna's advent, complained to Lord that the earth has become overburdened by unnecessary defense forces of demoniac people who are harassing saintly persons, harassing common people, and not at all properly ruling. Though they are in the position of rulers, they are not properly ruling. So Krishna's incarnated for the sake of reducing the burden of the earth, to eliminate these unnecessary defense forces, unnecessary military force. So he arranged this Kurukshetra war to wipe out all this unnecessary defense force. But among them, among the defense forces, not all are demonic. This we should understand. All are not demonic. Like Vasudeva was a king. Uh, uh, he was not demonic, he was divine nature. So there were divine people also. And as Kshatriyas, some of the divine nature people fought in the battle. And as Dronacharya was a Brahmana, but still he was a military teacher. And when he was requested by his disciple Duryodhana to fight on their side, then he agreed, because he is the teacher, military teacher. So he has taught Duryodhana how to fight in a battle. So he agreed to fight, and he was being maintained by Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana's father. So why was Bhishma and Dronacharya killed? Such a death in the righteous battle, in what is called as Dharma Yuddha, for those who are pious, those who are saintly in their behavior or nature, they are promoted to a higher status in their next life. Everybody has to die, whether saintly persons or not saintly persons, demonic persons. Everybody has to die. But when somebody like Bhishma or Drona, they die in a righteous battle, Dharma Yuddha, then they are promoted. Minimum, they are promoted to the heavenly planets, but they could be promoted even to higher status of Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, Brahmaloka, even the spiritual sky, or even the spiritual planets, the spiritual world consisting of spiritual planets, depending on their position, depending on their practice of devotional service. Bhishma is a pure devotee, so he straight went back to God. That is described in the Bhagavatam. Any other questions anybody has got? You can post it immediately, I'll answer. How should we view modern day warfare through the lens of Gita? Because when two nations fight, it is hard to say who is righteous. Now, the people in general do not follow the scriptures, so we can't strictly call a battle as a Dharma Yuddha in modern day times, yes. But still, as far as fighting on behalf of a particular nation in order to protect the innocent citizens whose life may be endangered if some other nation attacks, that is still considered righteous. You see, supposing there is a army person in India. He is enlisted as a army officer or soldier or whatever. He is in a defense force. Now, what is his duty? It is to defend this country. That means protect the nation against attack by other nations. Protect the citizens. That's what a Kshatriya is supposed to do. So in that sense, we consider the army people, the navy people, the Air Force people as actually Kshatriyas who are defending the nation and Nation means consists of people, and protecting the weak people or protecting the innocent people. So they are doing their duty. So in this case, when there is a attack, then when they protect, they are acting righteously. They're acting righteously. But not if independently they go on doing some killing, or they try to take a law into their own hands, and they try to adjudicate who is right, who is wrong. No, that is not proper person. But otherwise, if they are engaged in protecting the citizens, innocent citizens of a country, then it's valid. That is the duty. So they are not to be considered as unnecessarily killing the enemy or something like that. Next question: how can we understand the Leelas of the Lord? Were all the incidents planned by the Lord to pass down a message, or were they real? The pastimes of the Supreme Lord are real. All the activities are real, as opposed to material activities of living beings in this material world, which are simply actions and reactions of the three gunas. You see, both the actions and reactions of the three modes are actually not applicable to the soul, are not directly impacting the soul. It is happening at the superficial level of the body and the mind. That way, the body and mind are continuously changing. So these changes are due to the actions and interactions of the three gunas, but they appear to take place due to some so-called material activity and the consequences of performing material action, which is called reaction. So less like a natural calamity. It is nothing but a reaction to our sinful activities. So sinful activity somebody does, they have to suffer sinful reactions. One of the ways they suffer is they have to die in a calamity, or they have to be killed by some arrangement, because they were involved in sinful activity of killing somebody, some innocent person. So like that. So we understand material activities are ultimately actions and reactions of the three gunas of material nature. Spiritual activities are not like that. Spiritual activities are real activities performed by the Lord and his devotees. And why do they do this? This is simply for the sake of Ananda. All spiritual activities are meant to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord by the devotees, and by the Lord gives pleasure to the devotees, devotees give pleasure to the Lord. So it's simply the purpose of any spiritual activity is Ananda. Ananda is equally shared by the Lord and the devotees. Equally shared. So the Lord's capacity for enjoying spiritual pleasure is unlimited, and our capacity is limited. Every jiva's capacity is limited. But still, the supply of Ananda in any interaction between the Lord and his devotees is unlimited. So the living being as a devotee in association with the Supreme Lord is actually always immersed in an ocean of transcendental bliss. This is explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in one prayer called Shikshashtaka. Anandambudhi Vardhanam. While we perform Sankirtana, if we get completely absorbed in Sankirtana, we are able to taste the transcendental bliss as an ever expanding ocean of bliss. There's no question of scarcity. Neither is it a static ocean like the material world we have experienced. The ocean is very huge body of water, but it is limited, still it is limited. Whereas the ocean of transcendental bliss in the spiritual world is an ever expanding ocean because it's an unlimited ocean. So that is what is awaiting us if we take to Sankirtana and and actually experience the transcendental bliss. So in this sense, all spiritual activities are real and they are meant for transcendental bliss. Now, as regards the message of any spiritual activity which is performed as a pastime by the Lord when he incarnates in this world, that is only for the sake of those who are in ignorance about Krishna, those who are in ignorance about their own self, those who are in ignorance about the spiritual reality. The Lord's actions, which are described in the scriptures, or the Lord's instructions, or Lord's teachings, Supreme Lord's teachings, or even the teachings of the previous, of the acharyas, of the pure devotees, everything is giving a message to the ignorant people, to the suffering souls, to the materialistic persons who are entangled in this material world, who have so many plans to enjoy independent of Krishna. It is message for them. Every activity, every instruction, every teaching has got a message for the suffering people, ignorant people of this world. If there are only non-believers in the family and may not do the shraddha for the relative, how will the person who died be benefited? Now, the person who dies can expect some benefit from the dependent whom he or she actually gave service, just like my parents. When I was small, they gave me so much of protection, care, and so many things they provided for me, for my upbringing, everything. So they can expect if I am dutiful. Now, even if I am not dutiful, Krishna will arrange for me having, for my parents having taken care of me, having done their duty. Krishna will arrange for them to get the benefit of they having done their duty. That Krishna will take care. It is not dependent on whether I really do my duty, acknowledging the benefit I took from my parents or not. It is not dependent on that. Krishna will arrange somehow. I can at best be an instrument for Krishna, who anyway arranges for everyone through his agents, through his instruments. Krishna arranges. Krishna has got millions and billions and trillions of agents. So he will arrange. So parents are not deprived of getting whatever they need because the son is not doing his duty. The parents are not deprived. Whereas the son, if he doesn't do his duty, he is punishable by the laws of nature, laws of God, which is laws of God. He is punishable. You are taken benefit, but you are not doing your duty, so you are punishable. So, in order to save the person who has taken benefit from suffering in future, these duties are mentioned, and these duties are it's expected that the dependents will perform their duties, and it seems like if you don't give water to your parents who are now departed souls, they will have to suffer. It is just to invoke their compassion. The dependents become little considerate. I have taken so much from my parents. How can I let them down? How can I ignore them, neglect them? So that kind of line of argument or explanation may be there in the scriptures. But we should know that if they have done their duty towards the children, whether the children perform duties or don't perform duties towards parents, parents will get whatever is due to them through some other arrangement of the Supreme Lord, who is the ultimate protector, provider, maintainer of everyone. Is there any day schedule given by Srila Prabhupada for his disciples to perform devotional service, chanting, reading, and service of the Lord? Prabhupada has given a day schedule for those who are full-time missionaries in the Krishna consciousness movement. But if you want a schedule to be prepared, you can take help of devotees who are dedicated devotees. You can try to understand what is their schedule in consultation with them, and you can prepare your schedule, and you can take some help, some suggestions devotees can give you for preparing your schedule. Yes, possible. When Krishna accepts the bhoga offered by the devotees, we know that Krishna is the root, and when he is satisfied, everyone is satisfied. Why is there a requirement for us to eat food? Now you see, Krishna is the root of the creation, so satisfying Krishna satisfies everyone else, or watering the root of the tree nourishes the entire tree without separate need for supplying water to each and every part of the tree. Neither it is practical, nor is it feasible, nor is it going to work. So if we have to provide water to all the parts of the tree, we have to provide water to the root. That's the only way. Similarly, if we have to do our duty towards so many different persons whom we are taking benefit, the only way we can do justice is by serving Krishna, by offering to Krishna. It's the only way. We cannot do justice by individually trying to give something in return to every person from whom we take benefit. It's not possible. So therefore, the scriptures say you have to actually satisfy all the others from whom you're taking benefit by of worshipping Krishna, offering to Krishna. Then the question may be raised that if we offer food to Krishna, why should we eat that as prasadam? Because we have to maintain ourselves, this body, ourselves means the body, by eating some food which nourishes this body. Then if we simply eat some food which is not offered to Krishna, then there is reaction, because the way that food is procured may not be pure, or the person who is preparing food may not be pure. So there is some contamination, material contamination in the food we may be taking. So therefore, in order to make the food free from all contamination, in order to make it completely free from all reactions, and also to make it spiritually enriched, we should offer food to Krishna and partake the remnants. That's the only way we can get spiritually enriched food. That's the only way we can get karma-free food. It's the only way we can get pure food. There's no other. Though we know that we are not this body, but we forget when we are suffering from disease how to practice it during such times. Especially when we are having some sickness or disease or ailment, we should chant Hare Krishna. We should try to hear Prabhupada's discourses or Prabhupada's singing bhajans, or we should have somebody read for us from the book if we are unable to ourselves read. That is the way to actually divert our attention from the body and our mind, which is affected by the diseased condition or the sickness, and divert that attention towards Krishna, towards Krishna consciousness, towards spiritual subject matter. And if you practice this, then a stage will come when, even though we are sick, the pain or the suffering associated with that sickness will be almost completely forgotten when the mind becomes absorbed in hearing or chanting or remembering the Supreme Lord, or hearing Srila Prabhupada describe pastimes of Krishna, etc. That is the best remedy for actually this combating the ill effect of the disease. Last question before I close. Oh, it's over. I'm sorry. There are no more questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.